This recording is an offering of Networks for Training and Development's online university. Welcome to Network's Taste of Wellness, a series of introductory informational sessions on various wellness practices you can explore for yourself and others.
Aloha, this is Rosa McAllister from Networks for Training and Development, and I'm here to give a presentation. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's called Finding Your Energy and Learning to Use It. So I'm recording this for our Taste of Wellness series in our Holistic Practices online university at Networks. And I'm thrilled to offer this to you. As I mentioned, an oldie but a goodie, but I'm thrilled to do it because it still has pertinence. So this originally was written or devised or designed, this presentation, and given at various presentations and conventions to pretty large groups. And it was originally a part of us throwing out or hanging out our shingle that we were providing holistic practices, various types of massage, body work, energy work, and things primarily to people with disabilities, but really to anyone in need. And taking lots of classes and learning lots about this subject area, I felt more and more compelled that we needed to help other people realize the power and the presence that they had within themselves innately that sometimes we're just not aware of. We're aware of it, but we don't pay attention to it. We're aware of it, but we don't really know it. We know it, but we don't necessarily believe that we have this. So that was part of my initial idea. And now today, many years later, I find it's even more important that we do this, that we recognize the energy that we have within us, the light, the healing, the power that we have within each and every one of us that we can share with others. So I'm thrilled to offer this to you, this presentation, Finding Your Energy and Learning to Use It. So I love to start out with things like this. So I'm asking all of you to think about how many times have you sensed someone near you before you saw them? You just knew somebody was near you. You just felt them. It's not that you heard them. It's not that you saw them. You just knew it somehow. How many times have you had a wave of foreboding? You just knew something was going to happen and it's like the hairs on the back of your neck were kind of prickled up. You just knew you needed to be careful, and yet you didn't know why. How many times had you had really just bad vibes or good vibes about a person or a place or something or other? You just didn't know why, but you knew something. How many times did you have your mood shift suddenly just with someone's presence? They barely even said anything or did anything, and yet suddenly it affected you. How many times did you feel at home in a strange place? You just had never been there before, and yet that's what happened to me the first time I came to Maui, way back when. I just had one situation after another happen that just kept telling me that this was a place that I was meant to be. I almost felt comfortable. I almost felt at home. How many times you just knew you could trust someone? Maybe you never even met them. Maybe you just heard their name. You just got a good vibe, a good feeling. You knew you could trust them. Or you just met them without even really knowing them, and you just knew. Almost like you knew you had known them before. How many times have you been comforted by a touch or just being near someone? How many times have you said, that's weird, I was just going to call you or text you, or I was just thinking about you, and suddenly that person appears. I just had that happen a couple of minutes ago. I was thinking about someone and they called. How's that happen anyway? How does that happen? I don't know. How many times have you followed your instincts and your gut, even though maybe your brain or other people said you shouldn't? You just knew, you knew. How many times have you had what we might call funny coincidences of one sort or another? And what else? So much more. And how many of us honor those and respect when these things happen? Or how many of us just say, oh, that's weird, or that's interesting, or just brush it off as nothing? I have a belief, as my beloved doctor back in Pennsylvania, Dr. Christine Barry used to say, notice what you notice. And I've used that a lot in trainings and in other things, and it's become one of the mantras of my life. This idea that if we could just pay more attention and see and hear and really catch those situations like some of these, that maybe we would notice more things in life. And I believe that to be true. I sometimes call it the red car theory. You know, I go out and I buy a new car, I buy a red car, and I go driving down the road, and all of a sudden I see red cars everywhere. Did they all come out to greet me today because I have a red car and I'm part of the crew, I'm part of the crowd, part of the club? Probably not. They probably have been there the day before and every day, but I just wasn't tuned into them. I wasn't noticing them. So what would happen with these kind of things, these what I call these energetic winks from the universe? What would happen if I paid more attention or if I noticed these things more? Well, that's what's been going on in my life in the past, I don't know, 15 years or so, as I've been studying more about different alternative medications, and I'm putting air quotes around alternative medication or medicine or alternative wellness practices, meditation, yoga, and various things like that. I've studied since I was 12 years old and practiced. But I've really dug in deeper into more wellness practices in the last couple of decades of my life. And I've noticed more. And I've noticed what I noticed more. And guess what? The more I notice what I notice or pay attention to when these things occur, the more I notice these things occurring. I'm more tuned in. And I feel I'm more awake and alive and in tune because of it. So this word energy, I'm just going to pull up lots of different words. Prana, chi, spelled Q-I, chi, spelled C-H-I, and chi, spelled K-I. These are all basically the same thing. It's the life force energy that flows within all of us, human beings, all animals, all life sources, from the leaf on the tree to the blade of grass to the butterfly to even the sunshine, the rays of sunshine. There's prana, chi, ki, or chi, all spelled a little differently, but all the same. That's what all of these are. And what I find fascinating, I love when this happens, not that I discovered anything, but as I studied more different cultures and religions and belief systems and healing practices across the world, the more I saw, oh my goodness, what they're talking about in China is exactly what they're talking about in Tibet. What they're talking about in Cuba is exactly what they're talking about in Costa Rica. What they're talking about in Costa Rica is not that different from Iceland and not that different from Thailand or Bali and then I start diving into the history and finding out that these many different words in Hawaiian, it's mana, prana, chi, all the same, and yet happened at various times in various locations, some very similar times, without the use of easily get our hands on, or anything else. It just suddenly things, ideas seem to circulate in our universe, in our world sometimes. And sometimes we come up with some of the same understandings around the same time, but in different areas of the world. Fascinating. Some other words connected with energy: astral light, halos, human energy field known as HEF, auras, odic field, auric field, radionics, orgone, or orgone, I've heard it pronounced both ways, bioenergetics, biofield, bioplasma, morphogenic field, and universal energy field. And there's more, but all of these have to do with this chi, ki, mana, prana, life force energy within us. Some of these are more scientific fields or studies, more specific, but all of them have to do with this. One story that I like to highlight a little bit, it's not so much a story, but information, is halos. Now, most of us know of halos, and when you think of halos, most of us think of kind of a golden arch that goes around the head in artistic drawings of saints and holy people, knowledgeable people. That's a halo, is what we usually think of. But a halo actually is a depiction of auras, A-U-R-A-S, which is just below the word halos here on my screen. An aura is the representation of the energy field around a person, not just their head, but around their whole body. And some of us can sometimes see auras. And there are even aura cameras that can pick up and take photographs of the energy around our bodies. I have a couple of aura photographs of myself at some pretty interesting times of my life. And boy, do they depict what was going on in my life without the photographer, certainly not the camera, knowing what was going on in my world. So halos were done at a time in our history, human history, where artists were depicting, instead of saying this is a holy person, they'd show that in their art by doing a depiction of their aura around their head, known as halos. So this morphogenic field, the auric field, the bioplasma, all of these kind of things, human energy field, again, all of these words are discussions and talking about the energy that flows in us and flows among us. Just various ways that we've looked at this. And many of these have helped to prove what we already know about energy. We also know that there's communication across living things, not just in spoken words, not just in internet, not just in things we might write down, but there's all kinds of other communication across living things. So living here in Maui, Hawaii, we have wonderful tourists and visitors that come. Many come every year. And my favorite visitors that we have are the humpback whales. They come to the Hawaiian Islands, and particularly to the west side of Maui where I live, to birth and to nurse their young. They come here, they swim down here from the cold, fertile, yummy waters of Alaska where they feed to our beautiful, warm, crystal clear waters where they give birth and they nurse their young and they help them to learn how to swim and to jump and to feed. And then they swim back to Alaska in the summer, late spring and summer. So there's lots we know about humpback whales, but what I love most is there's a lot we don't know about whales. We've never recorded a live birth. We've never recorded live mating. We've never recorded a lot of things. And so there's still a lot of mystery about whales, in particular humpback whales. One thing, however, we do know, and I find this fascinating, is humpback whales communicate. In fact, I have recordings of them, like many animals, mammals, do. Many things do. You may even hear the birds outside my place, the myna birds squawking and talking. So we know that there's communication across living things. But here's a fun whale fact, humpback whale fact. Every year they change their song, quote unquote, called a song. We call it that, human version of it. The thing that they most commonly say, communicate. Their sounds are kind of a cross between, I would say, a kitten and a cow, with some almost burps and squawks in there as well. And it's very loud. And we know water conducts energy, electrical energy and otherwise. So when the whales are nearby and you're in the water here, you can sink under the water and you can hear them. We also have something called hydrophones, which are microphones that can go underwater and can broadcast the sound of the whales, this whale song, we call it. Well, an interesting thing is that the humpback whales change their song, their communication every year. Just a little bit, or maybe a lot. And another thing we know that I find absolutely fascinating is our humpback whales here in Maui may change their song in February 5th or early February. We might notice it. Maybe they changed it before that. But within 2 weeks, the whales, humpback whales off the Mexico border, Mexico coast, are singing the same song. And whales, humpback whales across the world, we know, all change their song to sing that year's version, and they do it within just a few weeks of one another. How do they do that? They don't have internet. They don't have phones, as we know it at least. Somehow they communicate across the oceans to one another, long, far distances. We know that the human body and electricity, we know that our brain is basically our hub or our computer central. We know that it gets information from our eyes and our ears, from our nose, from our mouth, from our fingertips, the five senses, right? We know that it gets converted somehow, this electricity, this energy gets converted from what I might feel with my hands or I sniff with my nose. It travels to my brain where it gets kind of matched up to see, do I know what this is? Kind of in my file cabinets in my head. We know that if I feel something hot, it transpires very quickly and I immediately remove my hand because I don't want to get burned. It happens so quickly, but it happens because it happens energetically. Because our bodies are made up of so much water, it's a very complex system, but that water, just like with the whales, helps to conduct the energy and helps with the energy flow. We know that there's this communication within our bodies, as I'm just talking about. You know, my eyes might see a bump in the road or something like that, and it triggers my foot to hit the brake pedal in my car as I'm driving to slow down because my eyes saw it long before I felt it in order to slow the car down. That's communication. We know that the brain is the hub in our body. It's computer central. And it is amazing in and of itself, but it needs the impulse, it needs the information from our various senses, from our sensors, as we call them in our body, as well as from the environment and other things. And it also needs experience. So our brain is constantly collecting experience and holding that experience so that the information we get says, oh, that's a bump in the road, you better slow down to activate my foot. We know that the heart is more than a muscle. And it's well known, for example, in heart transplants, more than any other organ transplant, it's not unusual at all for the recipient of that heart to start taking on some of the characteristics of the person that it came from. So I have personal experience with this and know of someone who received a heart from a loved one. And all of a sudden their diet started to change and they started acting a little differently. They decided to grow a beard that they had never had before. And we couldn't help but notice and think that that was very similar to the person who had previously had that heart. We know that electromagnetic fields exist in and around us. We've proven that with magnets. We've proven that with machinery. Oh my goodness, X-ray machines and MRIs and EKGs and EEGs. All of that are based upon the fact that they're picking up electromagnetic fields or energy within and across us. And we are learning so much more every day. And just like with the whales, there's so much that we don't know. And there's guesses and hypotheses. And there's lots of studies from many, many different fields. Some very, very highly scientific and some other more spiritual or otherwise. Through the years, we've known and studied about the power of laughter, the power of forgiveness, the power of gratitude. We've studied a lot around biofeedback, ways in which we can control through breath power, through brain power, through other things. We can control pain. We can control many, many different things that were previously thought not possible. Through the years, we have learned and studied acupressure and acupuncture, shiatsu, and many other wellness modalities, and seen how they can shift and help someone to decrease pain, to increase sleep, to increase overall wellness, to help someone who has had post-traumatic stress disorder, all kinds of other things. We've known, and you might not be familiar with, but divining rods and dowsing was the old way of finding water. That if you used, it was often a Y-shaped piece, a limb of a weeping willow or a willow tree. We know that willows, their roots will go down and spread and spread and spread until they can find water. So why would it not seem possible that a limb from a willow tree could be used as a divining rod to help find water? The same is known as dowsing. These are old practices that are still being used, sometimes by updated electronic versions of divining rods and dowsing, but it's still the same principle. Pythagoras, Newton, Einstein, these are all names of scientists through our history, through our years, that helped with discoveries of math or electricity or other things. Did you know that also all three of these were known as wizards? Also studied many other things of a more metaphysical nature, spiritual nature, and were known to be quite wise in those areas as well. And yet we know them for their, quote, science. Through the years, we know the power of yoga, meditation, Qigong, Reiki, and other methods that there's lots of studies on. Again, in business literature, oh my goodness, as well as in medical literature around the powers that these can do to help us slow down cancer. And some would even say to cure cancer, to help with post-traumatic stress disorder and other traumas and anxiety, to help with people who have had heart attacks, to slow down, to regroup, and more. Chanting and affirmations, everyone from Oprah to Deepak Chopra to all kinds of other people talk about the power of chanting. You, especially in a group with the power of people, it's like the power of prayer. When we in a group form together to do things, a lot of times it takes on a larger energetic motion in the universe, and it helps us all. And there have been lots of studies showing how group efforts to chant or pray or meditate together have done incredible things. Weather patterns have been changed, climatic patterns have been changed, other environmental patterns have been changed, and certainly social patterns have been changed. And then there's the use of affirmations. Many of us start our day reading a quote, a beautiful quote, or something to help ground us and keep us centered. There's the use of visualizations that we use, many people use to fight cancer. There's bioresonance. There's electromagnetic therapy. There's x-rays and holograms that are used. Crystals and tuning forks and drumming. Some of these might seem more scientific and more regular to you. Some of you might have to look some of these up. The use of sound and color. Focusing on our chakras, energy centers of our body. Tarot cards, runes, I Ching, pendulums, and so much more are all tools that have been used to help us use the energy within us to help guide our life in a more holistic way. So let's play. Let's tune in a little bit. And if we were together, I would gather us together to really do this. But I want you to just try this on your own. Just 3 things I want to try around energy. So I want you to imagine with your 2 hands, I'm putting my 2 hands up and slightly apart, probably about 6 inches apart. And I have my hands kind of comfortably, my fingers relaxed and all of that. I don't have my hands stiff or pressed together. But I'm just going to imagine that kind of like Spider-Man. From the centers of my palms, I'm going to shoot out, not spider webs, but I'm going to shoot out love. I'm going to shoot out a beautiful healing light. My favorite color is green. So I'm going to shoot out this beautiful celery green color, beautiful from one hand to the other. And I'm going to use my eyes to imagine that I see it. And maybe it's pretend, and maybe you'll actually start feeling something. And I'm going to feel, it can be whatever color, maybe there's a smell to it. Mine's kind of a minty, cross between a minty green and a fresh cut grass green. So I'm going to smell it, I'm going to see it, I'm going to pretend, I'm going to move my hands so that I'm kind of almost playing patty cake with my energy ball between my hands. I'm forming almost like a hamburger between my hands of this energy ball. And then I'm going to spread my hands farther apart. And maybe this like gummy that the green energy is growing. Yours can be any color that you want. I'm going to make it go back and forth. I'm going to take this energy ball and I'm going to sit it on the top of my hip. Ooh, that feels good. And I'm going to bless it and make it feel like it's full of love and warmth and light and healing good stuff. And I'm going to let it drip down the sides of my head with my hands, around my ears, around my neck from the back to the front, down my chest, down my arms. I'm just bathing myself with this light green, beautiful energy that now is not a ball, but it's almost like, I wouldn't say a slime, but it's this delicate little feathery ribbons that I'm picturing it. And it's down my legs, inside and out, down to my feet, back, down my back, down the backs of my legs and my butt, and all the way down to my feet. And yet there's a never-ending quantity of it. It's still in my hands. So I'm going to pass it to you. And maybe you can pass it to someone else. And I'm going to pass it outside to the birds and to my neighbors. And I'm going to pass it behind me to other neighbors back there. And guess what? I still have more. So what if you always had this energy between your hands? Guess what? You do. What if you had this little ball of energy? What if I always had my little green, fresh cut grass smelling little ball of energy, and I could put it in my pocket or put it down my dress, or I could put it in my ear so that I always had it with me? Guess what? I always do. I'm going to move on. I'm going to show you something else. Many of you, if you've ever been in sessions with me or others within networks, you may have seen this before. So I have in my hand here, and I'm showing to you, it looks like a ping pong ball, and it is a ping pong ball, except this one is a little different. It's been cut in half. It has a battery or something inside it, and has these little electrodes. And when I put my finger on one electrode and then on the other, look what happens. The ball starts pulsing light and sound. Now, it's a basic science experiment from, I guess, grade school or something about a closed circuit in energy and electricity. Because again, we know electricity flows through our body, right? So if I close the circuit, quote unquote, by putting one finger on one and one on the other, the energy in me is flowing through this ball. And this ball from Dr. Science online, which is only $6.99, is just, it itself is not energy. All it is showing the energy that I have within me. Now, I've done this energy ball exercise, not only with myself, but with another person, where I put my finger on one electrode and they put their finger on another electrode. And guess what? It still works because energy is flowing between me and them. And what happens if I have a whole room full of people? So I had a room of almost 77 people, and we all were together and we all held hands. And I put my finger on one electrode, and the last person in the circle coming all around put their finger on the circle. And we had a closed circuit of energy. And when one of us would stop holding or touching one another, it would stop. We broke the chain. So even though we had an energetic field amongst us, it was more direct when we held on to one another. Dr. Science, $6.99. So what's the point? The point is energy flows amongst us, flows within us. I have one more thing that I'm going to show you. This is a device. It's part of acupressure work that I do. And it really doesn't do much other than kind of like the ball, just shows something. It's called Pointer Excel 2. Now what this does is it picks up energetic flow at various points of the body. And what it does, we have energetic flows within our body that have been studied. Various lines, we have chakras, primarily 7 chakras in our body, energy centers. But then we have lines throughout our body coming up from our feet in the ground, going up and back down the back of us. And they have to do with some of the major organs of our body. This Pointer Excel, just like this ball, the energy ball, it can ride along your various energy centers or energy lines, and it can tell you, it will change in its tone and vibration, the energy there. So we can show where there might be a block of energy. And then there's a little button that you can push to give it an energetic, electrical, like a little snap, not painful. And you can adjust the measures on it. And that will then change and help you to get the energy going in there, in that area again. This is just like that ball. It just provides an outward, audible, visual sign to what already exists that some of us just don't know or just don't believe in. just like an X-ray shows the energy that flows within our body, but stops at a hard, concrete, calcified area known as a bone. And it can show if a bone is broken or something like that. Not that much different. So what if all this is true and you really felt your energy and your power? What if you really believed in your energy and your power within yourself? What if you could harness your energy and your power within yourself? What if you could turn it on, you could turn it off? What would you do? Maybe what would you do different? What could you do? What could you do? How would your life maybe be different if you really knew this? So this is part of what has been a big change in my life as I've acknowledged this more and more in the last decade, 2 decades, something like that. The more I studied about energy, medicine, and practices, the more I studied about yoga and meditation and the organic field and many, many other things, the more I realized that this has always been within me, and I've always had certain gifts in recognizing and seeing and feeling things within others. And it gave me the opportunity to really believe more, to notice what I notice, to use it for good, not evil. And what does all of this have to do with human services? Because I've worked all of my life in the field of human services with people with disabilities, people, nowadays I work a lot with people who live with anxiety and trauma and grief. What does this have to do with that? And maybe if you don't work in human services and you're watching this, what does this have to do with you? Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious. Regardless if you work in human services or any other field, we are human beings and we deal with one another, other humans, and interact with them all the time. And the more we can understand the gifts and the talents that we have, as well as the foibles and the problems and the issues, the more we're going to be understanding with one another. And the more we're going to put out to the universe our love and light. So things you can try at home that I have found that really encourage me to really notice more, notice what I notice, and practice more. I really try to think about drinking lots of water. Remember, water is a conductor of electricity. We need water. We all know we need water for our bodies to stay healthy, but I especially need a lot of good water to keep me flowing and to keep things purer within myself. I also believe in pure foods. I've been a vegetarian for many, many, many decades, actually. And you don't need to be a vegetarian in order to do this work or to be more in tune and in charge and more healing and well. But knowing the sources of your food and trying not to eat things that have a lot of preservatives or a lot of artificial foods, more real foods and more real local foods. So eating things that are of season where you live makes a lot of sense. It puts our body more in cycle with nature. And of course, rest. Not all of us are great at sleeping 7 or more hours a night, but finding ways that we can provide rest to our body and breaks to our body to heal. Different ways to clear yourself, whether it's meditation or journaling, things that you do before you sleep in order to get yourself patterned and ready to rest. Having sensory days. Sensory days are really interesting. There's some days where I'm just it just happens or I plan for it, that I'll tune in more to things that I hear, or I tune in more to things that I feel, the breezes on my skin, the chair that I'm sitting in, what have you, the sense of what I'm walking on, whatever. It might be a visual day. It might be olfactory or smelling day. Or maybe it's just a part of a day where you really focus on one sense more than the others. What all of these things do is they help you to get more in tune with yourself and what you're taking in and noticing more of what you notice. There's lots to do around self-acupressure to help ourselves feel better, fight headaches, fight nausea, be able to sleep better. We've already talked about positive affirmations, finding ways to surround yourself. So I have little notes and little cards, things like this on my desk handy. My work is deeply fulfilling, it says, and it's a picture of a woman catching stars with a net. On the reverse, it says, today I give my best to that which I do, knowing that when the experience is complete, I am led to even more fulfilling and rewarding experiences. This I keep on my desk all the time. I don't always pick it up and read it, but it's always here as a reminder, as an affirmation of what I'm trying to do in my work, because this is my specific workspace. Trying to always find the power within and questioning yourself, healing yourself, working on yourself, reading, exploring, being aware and talking to others, taking classes, play, and be open. These are the things that I've been doing more of to help me stay more grounded and to notice more of what I notice. So go forth, touch, breathe, move in grace, believe, spread your beautiful energy, use it for yourself, give it freely to others, help others feel, believe in themselves, and pass it on. As we say in yoga, namaste, which means I recognize the goodness in you, the belief in you, the light in you that I see. So I say to you, namaste. I say honi, as we do in Hawaii here, where we touch our foreheads together and we breathe a circular breath, where we are acknowledging the light and the breath within one another. I say aloha, which means love and hello and many, many other things. And I say mahalo, I sign thank you, and I say thank you. Go forth, be the light, you are the light.
Thank you for listening. We hope the information provided was helpful. Don't forget to stop by our website and take advantage of all we have to offer. If you want to be kept informed of upcoming events, subscribe to our channel to be kept up to date on our future programs. Click on the link provided in the description if you wish to receive emails about our upcoming events and offerings.